Welcome to the Africa Career Podcast, and I'm your host, Pardingtone Nhundu. Today we are talking about something interesting. Many people hear or talk about a PhD, but is it worth it? What doors does a PhD open? What struggles does it bring? Or what answers do you actually get after doing it? So today we're having a conversation, PhD or not, the realities, the rewards, and the roadmap for you to have it or not to have it. And today in the studio, we have Dr. Tinashe Gumbo to help us talk about the journey with a PhD or to get a PhD. Dr. Tinashe Gumbo is also the program executive secretary at All Africa Conference of Churches. And he's going to talk about his experience and a message for you to consider taking up a PhD. Doc, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you indeed.
Mm-hmm. So, Doc, I think as we start with your personal journey. How was your experience doing a PhD, and why did you take that particular path?
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, you have already defined me as a program executive for All Africa Conference of Churches based in Kenya. However, today I'm talking to a different audience altogether. I'm talking to someone who is thinking about doing a PhD, someone who is reflecting on the challenges that he may or she may anticipate. So I will do so through sharing my personal journey. I know this is unique to anyone. It's not a generalized journey. Different people take it differently, and they are also motivated by different reasons to undertake a PhD. So for me, as I was growing, of course, I thought I needed to do everything that needed to be done academically. That was my general principle. And then I thought PhD was actually the seal of academic journey. Of course, now I'm realizing that you can actually even go beyond through other means. But that was my first motivation. I needed to clear everything that needed to be cleared in the academic journey. But also, most importantly for me, I'm an independent person. I want my independence, particularly my independent thinking. So I thought doing a PhD as the last stage, according to my thinking then, I would actually be an independent thinker, someone who is not just influenced by others. Of course, I've read a lot of other scholars, philosophers, who influenced me, but I didn't want to remain stuck to them. I wanted also to bring on my own perspective of looking at things, particularly my area of study or my area of interest, politics, economy, environment. I needed to be independent. Then at the same time, in my family, I always want to start new things. I always want to be a pioneer. I have a brother who is an advocate of the law. As I was growing, I wanted to be a lawyer based on my brother. But later on, when I saw that I had not gone that route, I then said, no, the other thing that I can do is actually to finish the entire journey of the academic journey. But of course, I know others may want to think that a PhD is also an opportunity to make money. That may not be the truth, but at the same time, it can also be the truth, as we'll see as the discussion continues. So, of course, once in a while, I would also allow that thinking to come in to say, oh, maybe after doing a PhD, my opportunities will be more than now. And I even also challenge my kids right now. 3 of them, they are already in the university, and the mother is actually graduating tomorrow with a master's. The discussion is, this is not the end. We are pursuing, we are going further so that you broaden the opportunities. So the issue of the opportunities, you cannot also run away from it for others. But for me, it's mainly the issue of wanting to be independent, and also the authority itself. I'm such a person who also wants to be someone who has authority in a different in a particular area, and I think I could only do so by attaining such qualifications, so that I'm able to challenge the status quo in the academic situation. So for me also to do so, you needed that title. It's not just a title though. I needed that title to be called a doctor, a doc. In that discussion, that interaction with the academic work, it also gives you some authority that I also wanted. So let's see how we progress. Maybe I can come back. I don't know.
Yes, doc. Is the title yes? Yes, doc.
Yeah,
so looking back, when you started, what did you expect, and what actually did you experience when you were doing your PhD during your studies?
Okay, yeah. When I wanted to pursue this, I knew it was an area which was not a normal, not a common area. It was an area of the few, and indeed, you could even tell, even during our days at the school, at the university, even those who had this title, they wanted almost to monopolize it a little bit, such that I remember some of them, after writing an assignment, then you forget to put the title doctor, maybe put a mister, or just leaving it blank. They would actually refuse to mark that assignment. They would say, oh, you are referring to Mr. Nhundu. So he's going to mark your paper. I'm Dr. So and so. So that monopolization aspect was there. And I knew that as I entered into this discussion, there are those who are also trying to ring fence this particular aspect. But at the same time, it was scary to do something, because I remember again the other most emphasized thing was you are supposed to bring new ideas, new knowledge. You need to create new knowledge. So for me, what is that new knowledge? How do I create new knowledge? So it was scaring, and indeed some people used that as a weapon to scare others. But as I also embarked on the journey, the issue of money itself, because it was something presented as a mountain on its own in terms of financial requirements, financial needs. You need the scholarships. If you don't have a scholarship, you can't do it. If you don't have money, you can't pursue it. That was another scaring angle of the whole issue. Then generally, yourself mentally, you also needed to prepare yourself to say, now I'm embarking on a long journey. It's like the master's 2 years, 1 year and a half. The undergrad process is 3 years, 4 years. So this one, it was like you needed to be prepared for a longer period. But of course, reality showed me a different story. So the main difference that I saw, or that I which is still manifesting, of course, besides the issue of the thinking, or the level of preparedness, there are also other things like when you're talking about an undergrad, it's just a question of knowing. You don't question things. You just present things. You describe things. No one is also taking you a step further to say this is wrong. But when it comes to that other level, we can actually debate on this cap, to say it is not a cap. They say it's a cap at undergrad level. It's a cap. No questioning about it. But when we go to that other level, other thinkings, one can actually bring other issues to it. So the issue of critical thinking now comes to the fore. It's not just a question of thinking, but we need critical thinking, questioning. You need to be questioning things, even the basic, even the seemingly ordinary, the seemingly common, the seemingly agreed positions. You needed to question them. The issue of challenging, you needed also to challenge existing positions, existing thoughts. It's not a question of just saying, oh, Karl Marx said we can achieve a revolution through doing 1, 2, 3, 4. You need to question those things. So those are some of the things, some of the issues that you have to come through. But I saw you also wanted me to talk about the loneliness, whether it's a lonely, you are starting a journey that you are going to walk alone, a journey that you are going to achieve alone. Yes, it's you, the initial thinker, the initial initiator, the one who starts the process. It's you, but it's a teamwork. There are a lot of people involved in this particular journey, and the first one is actually the unexpected. You may not want to think about those, the family itself, your family, and this goes to whether you are a married person or you are not yet married, but you still have family members, you still have your mother, your sisters, your father. These people are part and parcel of this journey. Mm-hmm. If you are a married woman, a married man, indeed, now the stakeholders are even more. Besides your mother, your father, your brothers, you now have this wife or this husband and the children. They are also part and parcel of this. And indeed, they will actually contribute either negatively or positively. If you don't explain it to them clearly what you want to achieve or what you want to do, they may not understand you. They may not understand you when you insist to say we need to tune in to Al Jazeera on a daily basis because you will be pursuing a particular topic, or they may not understand you when you say I don't want to miss any church gathering that is going to be done by the Roman Catholic in this particular area. They may want this person. So you need to explain to them because you will be pursuing a particular thing. You will be tracking a particular issue. A PhD is all about tracking an issue. It's all about being. You need to sustain a particular thing. You need to be consistent. Otherwise, if you are not consistent and you allow them to disturb you, you allow them to convince you that the meeting that you wanted to attend is not important. Yet for you, that is actually where you are going to get the much needed data for the PhD. So they are already your stakeholders. So you need to clearly explain to them. And they need to understand you when you decide to say, oh, no, I think after you would have slept, I think I need 2 more hours to peruse through some items. They need to understand you. Otherwise, it can cause a different other things that you may guess. But the other stakeholder, which is critical, is actually the employee. If you are normally we do this when we are already in employment, so they also need to understand you. Otherwise, it will be a critical thing. Let's say, for example, to say in your methodology, you agree to say I will present about 2-3 papers at a particular conference or at particular conferences, and the conferences are happening in Italy, in Rome, and you are working in Kenya. And your supervisor doesn't know that you are pursuing a particular PhD, then he or she can actually mess up with your process. So it's another critical stakeholder. Then lastly, of course, I cannot exhaust them, but for this discussion, I also need to talk about the supervisors and the entire school itself, but mostly the supervisor in this case, because they can be a terrible stakeholder if you are not careful. For me, I had the first one. I had a very good supervisor who actually also motivated me to pursue a particular topic, to pursue a particular theory, and make sure that I become part and parcel of that particular family of theorists. So this person was very helpful. Each time we interact, we could cover a lot of gap, but he was based in South Africa and I'm in Zimbabwe. Then at some point, he had to be moved, or he had to change universities from my university, the University of KwaZulu-Natal, to Wits University. Now, that actually dismantled the flow of things. So we had to look for another one, not to disband this one, but to have two core supervisors. So now the new challenge emerged: how to manage these people. This one has got his own thinking, his own ideology. This one has got his own different ideology. So at times they can actually clash over an issue, over a draft that you have submitted to them. One can say, "Oh, this is very good." Then no, it's not very good. Oh, why didn't you use this particular scholar? Then this one says, "No, this scholar is irrelevant for this particular study." So you need to manage them. You need to manage them, and how you do so, you also need to apply other skills, diplomatic skills, negotiating skills. Don't show that you have supported this one against this one. Just find ways of managing them. So it's another critical thing. So all those things, I'm saying them so that when you finally embark on a journey, you know what to expect. But they should not be the final obstacles to your journey. You can actually dismantle them, but they are real. They will happen. And even before the addition of the other supervisor, I remember I would actually do certain drafts, send them. Then you continuously remind the supervisor through the email, through the phone, the WhatsApp, all this, with no response. For 6 months, no response. So at times you may not know. Therefore, how do I proceed if he's not actually assisting me? So those are some of the things that you will likely face, particularly with regards to the stakeholders. I'm explaining all this to show that you are not alone in this journey. You have a bigger. It's a bigger team, and even including the communities that you are working with, the communities that you will be researching on. You need to find ways of connecting with them. Otherwise, if that linkage is messed up, then how will you get the information?
You will not.
Yeah, and yet in the formal documentation of this particular process, you have agreed and it is signed by the committees, all the involved committees at the school, to say this is the committee of study. So you cannot move. You have to study this particular one. If you want to change, there are procedures to be followed. So you don't need to throw yourself into those situations. So the best thing is just to connect well with this particular stakeholder.
With the stakeholders that are there. But from your experience and from the people that you have helped who are doing PhDs, who has a better chance or who can finish off better? Someone who's doing a PhD full-time or someone who is under employment, then they are pursuing their PhD?
Thank you so much. Yeah, indeed. I actually, my story is unique, and also it answers your issue. So for me, I registered with a university in South Africa, and it allowed me to register as a full-time. And it had its own advantages. Particularly, remember I said you also think about finance. I didn't have any cent to support this process. So that allowed me to benefit from that country's policies, educational policies. I would not be charged. So because I have registered as a full-time. But I also needed to be working. By the way, I was coming from a political process where I had been into politics and having participated full-time into politics and lost, and now joined this particular process. So I needed to recover. I didn't have money. I could not just pursue the academic side, yet my family also expected me to be fairing for them. So I had to go back to look for employment in Zimbabwe, which I got, and but still I've registered as a full-time there. But my research is in Zimbabwe, so that justified why they could actually allow me to be in Zimbabwe doing my things, working. So you can see now I'm working away from the school, but I'm still working, and this actually brings me to another advice point that I was also going to share, to say. where possible, if you have a choice, please do something which is related to what you do on a daily basis. It can be at a work, as part of your work, your formal employment, or it can be part of a community that you work with as an institution, or it can be, let's say you want you are a church goer. Every week you attend church service, and in between there are also some church programs, those night prayers, whatever, Bible studies, whatever, reflections. So you may actually decide to do those things. You see, they are not detached from your daily life. So that advice, I got it from my supervisor, the first supervisor that I talked about, the main supervisor. He said, by the way, don't be fooled by those who say a PhD is there to develop new knowledge. Yes, new knowledge, but everything has already been studied. Most of the things have already been studied. What you just need to do is just find your way, just find your place in that bigger family of scholars, whatever. So there is nothing new, totally new in what you will be doing. Therefore, if you have the opportunity, please focus on things that you do on a daily basis. As a result, I went, because that person again allowed me to even to coin to define myself as an academic activist. It's because I was now studying, but at the same time practicing activism, because my focus was on community-based activism around the platinum mining issues, local content development in some of the country, in some of the places in Zimbabwe. So at the end of the day, what I was studying was in the office, because I ended up even getting consent from the organization that I was working to study it, or to study its work on the ground. So at the end of the day, as I was fulfilling my work, I was also getting data, such that on a daily basis, at the end of the day, I would sit down and say, what is it that I got today? Then I put it that way. In its raw form, I just throw it there. So at the end of the day, it actually quickened my process. But I was also lucky, because there is I think you know Codesria. Codesria also assisted me, just through one of the supervisors. I was connected to them, and they had to run an academy for PhD students who were pursuing their studies. And indeed, it actually happened here. I spent a month at Kenyatta University here in 2017 under that particular program. What it did, this program actually brought in a group of scholars, high-level scholars from Africa, some of whom are actually in the diaspora. I don't hesitate to mention one of them, who has become my mentor and also my co-author on many topics on the Pan-Africanism and other things. It's called Professor Abdul Karim. Professor Abdul Karim is actually a renowned scholar. If you Google him, you'll find that he actually attained 5 PhDs in different topics. And which topics? History, literature, mathematics, what you will find him. So that group of scholars, they came together and offered to assist a group of students who are pursuing their PhDs in different African universities. So I was part of that. I was one of them. And it also quickened. This actually brings us to the point that you need to take up opportunities. Once you start to be a PhD student or candidate, by the way, once you register, you finish all the administrative things, your title is candidate. You are now a PhD candidate. Then after graduating, then you become a doctor, yes. So once you become a candidate, look for opportunities. You don't just sit down and say, I will just go into the library and look for sources. I will go on the internet and look for sources. You are supposed to be linked to the everyday, to the realities in that area of study. If it is mining, you need to be connected to mining conferences, mining meetings, where, let's say, a community is involved, is actually challenging a mining company, and they are organizing a demonstration. You may actually be interested in those. Those are the practical things that will actually quicken your process. So my advice is look for opportunities, look for conferences, look for meetings, even ordinary meetings. It's not just conference. Normally, the people mystify that as to say, I need to go and present.
Now let's talk about what happens when the PhD is done.
Okay.
What's the payoff?
Okay. Thank you. So you have done your undergrad, you have also done your master's, and now you have also successfully defended your PhD. And we use the word defense because you have to defend. Remember, you are creating knowledge, and you want to be an authority in a particular area. So we assume that this is your thing. This is a new thing that you have created for us. We may not be convinced. Others may not be convinced about the significance of what you discovered. So you have to defend it. How do you do that? There are many ways of different universities actually fulfill that process differently. In some cases, you appear before a panel. You are presenting your findings, your methodology, what you did, the challenges that you faced, the lessons, of course, and most importantly, the key findings. So you will be responding. Because one may want to pursue a particular topic to say, we see this particular finding that you are pursuing, or this theory that you are now, you have developed. But we don't seem to understand the strength of this particular theory in explaining this phenomenon that you were studying. So this is where the defense aspect comes. So you need to convince them. So once you successfully convince them, then we say you have successfully defended your PhD. So having done so, you are now a doctor. They now call you a doctor. On my part, when I graduated in 2020, I was not sure whether I accept it. The confidence level was still very low. But the good thing is my wife and my children had already started to call me doctor, doc, even at the very, very early stages. So that motivated me, which actually confirms what I said before, to say you need to have a supporting team. Otherwise, you lose it. Mm-hmm. So they worked with me. Already for them, they saw a doctor in them. My father is a doctor, my husband. So that actually cultivated the confidence in me. But when I finally officially got the title, I looked back and I said, do I deserve this? What did I actually do? Right? So those are moments when you reflect, you look back at what you have done, the journey that you have walked, and seeing whether you actually did the best that you could do. What were the challenges? What were the lessons that you also now need? Now you can formally share the challenges. Now you can formally share the lessons. You can actually offer the advice because you are almost an authority in this particular area. Right now that you have done that, this is not the end of the story. We still expect you to pursue other academic processes. Hence the normally said phrase, publish or perish. You've heard about that? Mm-hmm. So you are now expected to be producing more knowledge based on, this was just the foundation of more things to be done by you. So if we don't see you publishing in the next 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, then people start to talk about you. People start to talk behind you, say, so where is this? So they want to see products. We want to see products emerging from you, even if the rate is very slow. But at least we need to see something with your name, articles, papers, which are being presented in different conferences. We want to Google around and say, oh, here is Dr. So and so, it's paper, but not to just carry that title. Then you think you are done. I think I have hammered that on one. So
this is before the payoff.
Yeah, right. No, but already you are paying. You are interested in you being paid off, but already you are paying. You are giving to the community, because once you become a doctor, you expect you to be contributing. You actually giving giving back to the community through production of this knowledge. Now, on your part, as you do so, to answer one of the questions that other people may have, to say, now, how do you become a professor? You already, as you produce these materials, you participate in other academic processes like reviewing academic work, reviewing other people's articles, other people's books, writing academic journals. Then you are also fulfilling another academic process. Remember, when I was growing, I thought a PhD was the end of the story. But now I'm proved wrong, because I now need to fulfill this for me to then be a professor. So now, of course, this also applies to the PhD, to the doctorate issue. These honorary doctorates, this is actually an acknowledgement that you have done something which may not be this process that we have been talking about. A professor of practice, doctor of practice in a particular area. But here I'm talking about the proper the one that we know. If you are going to move from an undergrad to masters to PhD, then this professor thing, of course, it's given by a particular institution based on what you have produced. However, there are certain countries where just being a teacher, a lecturer, they also say, oh, professor such and such, something like that. I think you've heard about those. So that is the... Now, in terms of paying off, I think I indicated earlier on when I started to say, some people may think that being a PhD holder also translates to having a lot of money, a lot of work, a lot of consultants, whatever. Yes, it can for others. It can actually be. These are unique cases. It cannot be a generalized case to say once you hold a PhD, then everything else becomes rosy. You will be surprised to see that PhD holders are actually struggling in life, but they are satisfied in their mind because they are producing these products. So don't expect money, but it can also come at times. Because I know in some employers actually clarify to say we want a PhD person. Even in our academic institutions, that is very, very important, because we can't take a master's person to come and teach a PhD person or a master's person. So preferably it will be someone with a higher qualification. So then if that can also be accompanied by differences in terms of the remuneration, something like that. So it can also open other opportunities. For example, those who may be in the academic sector, they may also be engaged by non-academic institutions to do some work, what we call consultants, to do some evaluations of some projects, to do some facilitations, or all those things, such that it actually, if you are lucky, you are engaged in a big project. Of course, you can get something bigger, but it's not a generalized situation. It's a case-by-case benefit. Then, in terms of the unique skills that you you now have as a PhD compared to others. Probably in an interview, what is it? What can differentiate you from others that may be required by a particular institution? I have already talked about. Critical thinking is an important thing because we want people who can bring new ideas, people who can challenge the status quo. We don't want people who just want to say, "Oh, Karl Marx said it." Then this is still the situation. Remember, Karl Marx was saying it long back, centuries back. Now we have a different context. What is it that we can do differently, or what is it we can do to challenge Karl Marx and bring in new things that can move this particular institution? So those are some of the things that we may require. But you will see that in practice, at times, even in undergrad, a person can actually perform very well compared even to the PhD person, probably because of experience. This person has been in this particular sector for quite a long time. He now knows almost everything that is associated with this. So if you are to bring these two people together, this one can actually bring in critical, innovative issues.
But in that area, Doc, is there an instance where, or a risk of being overqualified?
Yeah.
When you have a PhD and you're applying for jobs.
Indeed. I've worked for a number of organizations, and I don't want to mention names. And in those organizations, I've been involved in the recruitment process, whereby I was part of the panelists. There were clear cases at times where you are looking for a programs person, just a basic programs person. Then you see PhD people, PhD candidates, or PhD holders applying for that job because employment is actually a problem at the moment in Africa. So I remember very well that the panel would say, "Oh, no. This one is overqualified. We cannot," because we cannot run away from that general belief that these qualifications also should come with higher expectations. So reality shows that these people at times are closed out because of their many qualifications. And at times I also suffered the same along the way, of course.
So does it mean when you're applying with the PhD, there are some moments where you have to hide that you have a PhD?
Yeah, actually, there were moments when I would actually remove certain things like the PhD or the PhD. Mm-hmm. Or even certain areas of interest, because as a PhD person, I have areas of interest in my research. For example, in my case, I write about elections, I write about politics in general, the environment, climate change, music, all those things. In fulfilling my academic obligation as a PhD person, wanting to create or wanting to contribute to the development of knowledge. But at times I would say, now, if I then disclose that I'm a PhD person who was working on elections, these people, they may be scared, or depending on the nature of their job, something like that. So it may be a risk in courts, because if we open the risk to say it is risky to start, now we'll be not doing our continent any favor. It's good to start. It's good to be told that you are overqualified than to be said to be told that we expected someone with something like that. So it is practical. It happens.
And for listeners who are thinking of doing a PhD, what should they know before they start?
Yeah. So the first thing, you need to have an area of interest.
Okay.
What is it that you want to? And this develops over time as you are growing. For example, on my part, I have been interested in activism, but I didn't know that it is called activism. I wanted to challenge certain things. I wanted to challenge authority. I wanted to challenge those who appear to be on the advantage side. So I didn't know that is part of what we now call activism, economic justice activism, political activism, social justice activism, all those. But that interest started long back until I finally studied a particular area which is related to activism. So you have an area of interest, but at the same time, you also need to think about the realities. You may be interested in certain thing, but that thing is happening in Rome. How will you study that? And it actually happened to me again. My case is pregnant with many issues. When I embarked on this journey, I presented my topic before a panel. It was accepted, and I convinced everyone. And indeed, I wanted to upgrade my master's level topic for
PhD.
for a PhD, and it involved analyzing the Zimbabwe's intervention in different countries, in Mozambique, in DRC, and other countries. So it was accepted, and we moved, I think, for about 6 months, until my supervisor sat down with me. He came down to Harare from South Africa, specifically for that. He said, no, this thing we are not progressing, and we cannot progress on this one because it requires us to go to DRC. Are you able to speak French yourself? So he was now trying to convince me to see the realities on the ground. You need to go to Mozambique. You need to go and talk to this and that. So reality showed that in as much as I was interested in that topic, I could not fulfill it. So think also about the realities after the willingness, the interest, but what happens practically when you start to, will you be able to get the right data? Because we don't want a situation whereby you end up cooking data. We normally talk about cooking data when we are in this gen, whereby you present to us your cooked data, which is not verifiable, which is not credible. Remember, this gen is all about credibility, legitimacy of whatever you are going to come up with. Remember, you are creating something new, and then later on you realize that you actually sold us a dummy, then it will be something else. You know that some of these pages can actually be withdrawn.
When people realize
oh, there is something that because there are rules to be followed. Every game has got its own rules. So you may have probably maneuvered and skipped or did something which is against the academic principles. Then still the institutions have the right to think about that. Yeah,
but I'm sure people have come to you for help in terms of pursuing a PhD or not. But from your viewpoint, who should pursue a PhD and who shouldn't?
Yeah, so for me, everyone should actually pursue a PhD, so that because we don't mind which area of study are you pursuing, but just continue improving, because it's just one systematic way of contributing to knowledge, one systematic way of enhancing your ability, your authority in a particular area. So for me, everyone should consider pursuing it, because remember, I'm an advocate of independence, academic independence, so that you are not stuck in some of these some of these theories, some of them which are no longer useful in our current context. So maybe linking up back to the first question about the advice, we talked about interest, we talked about the realities on the ground, but you also then need to start to connect with the right people. Start to think about map the possible supervisors, because this journey also requires someone who will be super. It's your project, but you require someone who can help you as you move. So you can these days it's easier, because the question of say if you want to go to UKZN, it's a question of just going to their website, look at who has interest in the areas that you are also interested in. Then make contacts, informal contacts, to say, hey, Professor X, I have seen that you are interested in these areas, and I'm also interested in this particular area. Could you, are you available to be my mentor? Even if you are not going to be my supervisor, you can also be my mentor, linking me up with the right supervisors, linking me up with the relevant conferences where I will be benefiting because of your area of interest. Then after that, even if you are not going to then enroll with UKZN, but you now have people who can assist you to look at your draft. A PhD, it's all about having people looking at your draft. The more these people are, the more it becomes.
Perfected.
It won't be perfect, but at least it will be near perfect than if it is going to be only read by your supervisor.
Okay.
So connect to as many people as possible. Of course, bearing in mind that these people will also bring their own many thoughts, which can even confuse you or can even contradict what the supervisor is doing. That's now where you come into to try and manage these people. Professor Bangura always tell us that at times it's a question of managing these people so that at least you reach the winning point. Once you become a doctor, you can even come back and challenge them to say, at some point, you actually challenged me, and I just accepted then because I was not yet an authority. But now that I'm on authority, I want to engage. By the way, academic work is all about engaging. I can even decide today just to write a paper to counter a particular paper that you did. And you can also decide to respond. So that is now the academic game that we are playing. And in the process, we are producing what is required as new knowledge. So connect with the right people, then also connect with the potential sponsors. Remember, we talked about money. Money is required. But if you are lucky, some of the you may be carried by some of the projects that may be running within the different institutions. For example, for me and others who were 8 that enrolled at once with my colleagues from Zimbabwe, of course, I know just over half of those have already completed. We benefited from a specific project which was being run by our supervisor. So it's also important to look for potential supporters who may be a company interested in your topic. Let's say it's a mining company and you want to start local content development in the area of operation. You engage them. They can actually buy your idea because you will be contributing to their story or something like that. So it's that's another critical thing that you need to do. Then of course the other ones are basic things. You now also need to know what is required by this particular institution, the applications, all those other things, the application, the supporting, the references, all those other things still apply. References from your previous supervisors at master's level or other institutions, they still apply. The other ones.
Doc, coming to an end, what legacy do you want to leave behind?
Okay. For me, I have indicated that I'm not getting anything from the PhD thing. Anything in terms of
payoffs.
Money. Yes, I'm getting, but it may not be what other people may expect because of my title. But for me, I'm very happy because I'm actually contributing independently. If you look at my materials that I write, they may not be perfect at this particular moment, but they are communicating something. That's why I write on my blog, because no one is challenging me. I can only be challenged by those who are giving feedback, but I'm independent to share my idea on my blog. And I know that blog is going to live even beyond it has life of its own. I write on all the other social media platforms. And if you look closely at what I write there, I also write academic materials. Like I said, they may not be perfect in terms of whatever, but I'm communicating something. So you can already see, besides my formal teaching, because I also teach, I've been teaching in different universities in Zimbabwe, and I've also been supervising many students, master's students. I'm currently also having quite a number of them in different universities. I also review academic work for different journal papers. So for me, I'm already contributing, and I'm happy with that. But most importantly, I'm happy that I'm giving out knowledge to as many people as possible through my informal engagements, those social media platforms, which means I can decide to write about this particular subject and put it on my on my Facebook. I know that it will reach as many people as possible instead of confining myself in a classroom where I'm talking to 20 people. Something like that. So that is the legacy that I'm also contributing to many books, many book chapters, and those book chapters will live for far beyond myself. Even what I've contributed so far, even if I'm to die today, I know people will know about me. They will know about me having written on neo-coloniality, a new school of thought being pursued by Professor Bangura and us. They will know of me having contributed about elections. They will know of me having contributed about music, and this is out there in the public. So for me, that's the most important. Then lastly, of course, for my family. I at least they have someone who is always challenging them. Do you know that for me, I'm comfortable not even having the luxury that other people may want, as long my children are pursuing education, as long my wife is also pursuing education at the highest level. I'm fine, and that is the legacy that I am living.
Thank you very much, Doc.
Yeah,
this has been a wonderful session, and I'm sure we have learnt a lot. And to you, our viewers, this is an opportunity for you to learn or to understand more about the PhD journey. And I assume that you have learned or gotten one or two inspirational nuggets from this podcast. We see you in the next episode.